Welcome to the Real Estate Explainer podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. I'm your host, Brian Kixula. Take notes. Today, Walter Johnson is going to be talking about what he looks for when acquiring mobile home communities across the United States. Walter, thanks for jumping on the podcast with me today. Mobile home parks are an interesting asset class. Your niche is acquiring mobile home communities across the United States. As a cost segregation specialist, I would say between 10 to 15 studies on mobile homes last year, or mobile home parks last year. I also did a handful of RV parks. I've got an RV park that I'm going to be doing a study on next week in Texas. And from a depreciation standpoint, they are an amazing opportunity for accelerating depreciation. What do you really see the opportunities in mobile home parks right now?
We look for mismanaged parks. We look for inefficiencies in parks. And I would say the word I'm looking for, kind of lack for better words right now, is actually we look for some hair on a real estate deal. And what I mean by hair, we look for, can we fill in homes? Can we actually increase rents? Can we decrease expenses? Can we put in our own management to actually run that park? So when you're buying a mobile home park, you're buying real estate, but you're buying a business as well. So I think that's actually what we're looking for. Inefficiency.
So you're looking for a business that's maybe a little bit mismanaged.
100%.
They haven't done the correct marketing on the property. They haven't kept up with maintenance. There's going to be deferred maintenance in the community. Right. And you're looking in and doing value add. So you're looking at value add communities.
That is correct. 100%. Yes. When
you're coming in, are you looking at, and when you're raising capital to acquire these properties, are you building that into your deal structure? You're saying, okay, we're going to acquire a park for $3 million. We know we're going to have to bring in $500,000 to upgrade the infrastructure, maybe put in new signage, landscaping. Are you building that into your initial numbers?
Yes, we are. Absolutely. Yes.
All right. So what are some of the things that you're looking at, the value adds that you're looking at doing when you're coming in? Is it strictly cosmetic, meaning landscaping, signage, maybe resurfacing the roads? Are you doing other heavy lifting items, such as upgrading the septic, just some of the larger ticket items?
Right. Both, actually. So when you look at a park, my assumption is that everyone wants to actually live in a good, clean, quality place. That's my assumption. So we go into a park and we look at it saying, yes, we actually want to provide, maybe repave the roads, put new landscaping in, signages, because a lot of parks actually don't have signages. And we necessarily upgrade the sewer systems or septics, because we usually look for public utilities.
I live here in Florida. I'm in Sarasota. A lot of the communities, these older communities that are built in the 50s and 60s, they're on septic, and it's one of these things that it's a huge expense, or it can be a big problem, especially when it comes to quality of life for your tenants that are in these communities. Is that a hard no for you? A pass on a park?
No, not at all. I actually had a park where it had private utilities, and I was actually telling someone like 2 nights ago about this, to where the septic tank actually flooded, and there was actually like sewer water on the streets. It was, I don't know, we had 6 streets or something like that. It was a pretty big park. But no.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, no. And 80 EQ, federal kind of government, actually came down. I don't know how they got involved, but that's actually happened. But we cleaned it up. They tested us. We got flying colors. They loved us after that.
So when you go into these communities and you're doing the value adds, you're stabilizing the rents, you're bringing in new tenants, how long is your typical hold period? How long are you planning on holding these assets?
Years. Yeah, it's years.
So years.
Yeah.
And then even if you sell the property, do you maintain management in that same community thereafter, or do you take your management with you?
Yeah, we take our management. Usually the management's actually on site at the property. Usually there's a property management that lives at the park. Property manager and a maintenance person that lives on site.
So you're basically, it sounds to me like buying properties that are undervalued, possibly mismanaged, going in, doing the value adds, stabilizing the rents, improving the property, holding it on holding on to it for a number of years and then possibly reselling it as a retail property to another set of investors down the road.
Right.
Does
Absolutely.
that sound like kind of the business model that you're operating in?
Mhm.
All right. Very interesting. And how do you find these deals? How do you find a park that's primed to be sold? Because you're probably not pulling it off LoopNet or another commercial space and buying it retail.
No, not at all. No. So I look at those sites just for what's going on in the retail market, but I don't buy anything. And I go directly towards sellers and owners of parks.
So are you then cold calling, sending mailers? Yeah. So you're finding other ways to reach out to community owners to see if you can make the acquisition.
Yes.
And are you part of, and I don't know, are there associations that you're a part of, whether they're local, regional, or nationally, that you join with other park owners? So you're going to the conventions, you're meeting them, and you're coming across opportunities that way?
Yes and no. So I'm actually a board member of Manufactured Housing Community of Arizona. So I'm in the city of Mesa in their affordable housing and manufactured housing division as well. So I don't get to go do the cool stuff like meet and greets. I actually have to do that a lot.
I don't know how cool that sounds, man.
Right. I actually have to do a lot of legwork behind the scenes to,
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there deals in those associations? Yes, but no. Yeah. I would say a lot of the good deals to be had don't actually hit the market.
So they're never going on the market. So you really have to do the boots on the ground, the networking, make the phone calls to the sellers, let them know that you're in the market. You're able to make the transaction once they're ready to sell. I imagine some of these deals can stretch out for years because you're probably coming across owners that they're totally happy with the way things are going right now, but maybe 5 years down the road, there's a change of circumstance and they're ready to make the transition.
Yes. And that's why you actually just have to keep your feelers out there. And you have to do it yourself, is because when people sell a property, they want to sell to a person that's actually going to take over the property and do a good deed. And I think that's when you talk to sellers, that's what they want. They held it for decades and they just want to put it in buyers' hands. And that buyer, they want to know that buyer actually has good intentions.
Yeah. And I've heard that from multiple investors, different investors in different classes, whether it's apartment complexes or it's storage facilities or small retail or warehouse space. A lot of these owners occupy the properties. Maybe they live on site, or in your case, a mobile home community, they were the manager. That's certainly the case with some of the RV parks that I've worked or done transactions with. And then storage facilities, it's the owner has been the operator for, you said, decades. They've been there. So when they're ready to sell, they want to make sure that the individual that they're selling to is going to do a good job and make sure that their existing tenants are taken care of. I completely see that.
Yeah, we're buying parks and we're making money, and that's great. But at the end of the day, we're still in a people business, and I don't know. I never got close to any tenants, but you get some of these tenants or residents and you want to make sure that they're actually taken care of as well. That's what's been my experience with dealing with.
I'd like to thank today's sponsor, CostSeg RX, a cost segregation company. If you're interested in a cost segregation study, log on to realestateexplainer.com and click the cost segregation link at the top of the page. And then when you're looking to acquire a community, what's the average purchase price? What purchase price are you looking at?
We go from $2 million to $29 million. It's just
so $2 to $30 million is what you're looking at. And then what's the sweet spot when it comes to not necessarily the dollar amount of a park, the number of units. So the number of tenants that are going to be in that community. Do you want to go buy something that's got 10 tenants? Or are you looking at something that has 100? What's the magic number that you're usually going after?
If it's in a good area, I would say 30 is probably the bare minimum. But so I would say 30 to 700.
So 30 is the bare minimum. Is that just because of the cost to manage it?
Yeah, scalability. But if it's 30 and it's actually, let's just say like Texas or Austin, Texas, then it's 30 or Denver, Colorado. That's a prime location. So you can actually do something good with 30 spaces. But after that, no, if it's a normal park, we're looking at 80 spaces or above.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just economies of scale. You can't go in and drop a $500,000 on a community that's got 15 sites. It just wouldn't make sense, especially if there's any major site improvements that you've got to do. So absolutely. And one of the things that a lot of investors, especially in the commercial space, look for is just additional opportunities on the site. Do you look at increasing the number of sites or number of, so you're not looking at doing that. You're also probably not looking at converting any of the RV parks into different uses.
Maybe we were looking at one in northern Arizona. It's an RV space. We're actually looking at putting park models in. So we do look at that, but I think it's 90 spaces or something like that.
And that's a very similar business model. So you're not taking it from an RV or a mobile home site and adapting the land use to condos, pulling everybody out and building a condo facility. I know some of the communities, especially in Florida, they are on prime real estate in some of the best locations just because they were built so long ago. And literally the communities have been built up around them. And I think that there's just an amazing opportunity to take some of these old mobile home communities and repurpose the land, bring in a developer and convert it into a shopping center or condos or a high rise. And that's going to be unique to the individual market and the property, but that's a totally different type of business model. So what are some of the challenges that you see or that you come across when you're looking at purchasing these communities?
I think right now prices are high. I think sellers are actually coming down to reality, but there was a time to where you could put a park on the market at 3 cap and it would sell. I think those days are done. I wouldn't say there's any challenges. It's just finding a deal to where the actual owners are realistic with their pricing.
And then how are you structuring the financing on them? Right now, interest rates it's not a favorable market. Are you seeing owner financing that helps out, or are you taking bank financing on these deals? Or is it you're raising the capital and it's cash?
Yeah, both. Or I would say all three. So one we're looking at for 3.6 or something. So that'll be all cash. Bank financing is not favorable right now. I think, sort of park is probably the mid sevens with 35% down. That's actually a lot of money. So I think a lot of sellers actually are more inclined to actually do seller financing with 5, 10, 15, 20% down. So I think seller finance is actually the key. And then
how do you structure those deals? Are they holding onto the note for, let's say, 5 years? So 5-year prepay, and then do they structure prepays and then balloon payments, or is it a 5-year deal, interest only, and then at the end of the 5 years, it's a balloon, you bring in the cash?
Yeah, we usually do 5, 7, or 10 years. We usually don't do P&I, principal and interest. We just do interest only because, they get the actual income if it's principal and interest, but that comes to us in terms of balance reduction. But I think they're actually okay with interest only.
Okay. And I want to repeat that. So you said it's seller financing, 10 to 15% down, and you're looking at 5, 7, or 10 years,
correct,
interest only. And then what are the ballpark rates on that?
5, 6%.
So 5 or 6%. So that's awesome. Because if you're looking at a hard money deal, you're going to get crushed on the rates.
Yeah.
If you're looking at traditional financing, like you just said, you're 35% down plus the 7%. It's going to be hard to make it's going to be hard to make it pencil, because like you said, you're not just buying real estate, you're buying the whole business. So you have to make that business work. It's just got to cash flow so that you can pay to properly manage it and take care of it and bring in the improvements that you need.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Brian, if you had a piece of property you wanted to sell because you hung on for a while, and I said, hey, what about I give you $1 million for your down payment, so you have $1 million more than what you had yesterday, and then I give you income per month equivalent to what you were actually receiving on that property, you probably would take it.
Yeah, I think I would take that.
Yeah.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, people get tired. There's deals to be had, but you're dealing with business and parks and people get tired and they still want to generate some income and have some money in the bank. And so that's what we're able to provide.
So what are some of the biggest, I don't know if you, because I didn't prep you for this, I don't know if you pull it out of the air, but I'll try you. What's one of the biggest successes you've had when it comes to acquiring and then possibly selling a property down the road?
I think the biggest success is probably when you buy it, because when you buy it, you're like, hey, I made $1 million, right? Because when you close, because usually we buy parks that are undervalued, but when we actually look at parks and when we close escrow, we actually make millions of dollars. That's true. But when we actually sell, we have to find something else to do. I think the biggest successes are when we buy something.
So it's acquiring the property.
Yes.
So that's an interesting, and I think that's counterintuitive for a lot of investors. They say it, hey, I'm really going to make my money when I sell this property. So they're looking at the end goal, maybe months or years and years down the road. But what you're saying is that's not it. You're making money when you buy the property. You're closing on the deal. You acquired it. So that's the real success in your business model. And I think actually not just yours, but probably most real estate investors, they're making money when they acquire the property because they're buying it at a discounted rate. And they know based on their capabilities, they can drive the value of that property up. So selling it in the end is great as well, but it's that initial acquisition.
Yeah. And when you raise rents, you actually, let's say we raise rents in January or tax time, April, and we raise it $25 a month. Not a lot of money, but when we actually do, we're like, let's say we raise the rents by April 1st, and then by May, they're paying the new rent. We actually increased our portfolio or the value of that park, let's say by $2 million. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And especially if you're looking at all of a sudden it's a community that's 30 plus units, 100 units, all of a sudden that $25 or $50 a month, it really does make a big difference to the end value of the property.
100%. Yes.
Now, when you're structuring leases, are you doing long-term leases with your tenants? Are you writing month to month? Are you going annual? Are you doing multiple years?
No, we usually do month to month because we have some that are actually, if they don't pay rent, it's no pay, no stay. So we actually have to do evictions, but usually it's just month to month. They own their own home. It's pretty stable.
So they own the property.
Yeah, they own their own home. Usually like a single family home or apartment building. They're usually just month.
And do you own any? I'm sure you actually own some of the homes that are in the community just by default. I know the parks that I did last year, when they took them over, they ended up with a handful of mobile homes that were they were just on site. So they own those. Do you typically then rent those out or do you move those off?
We rent them out. We're buying a park right now. I think it has 56 park-owned homes. That's a lot. We'll probably sell them or give them away but sell them for $1,000, whatever they're worth.
Because that's not really your business model. It's renting the space.
Right.
So you having the mobile homes on that property, while it could be considered a bonus, it may actually not be a bonus at all, because if they're not in good condition, then you have to remove those so you could bring in another tenant. And the cost associated with moving a mobile home,
$20,000.
You said $20,000. So $20,000 to remove that home from the site.
For moving. No, yeah. So for a homeowner or for a resident to actually move it out of a park, it's like $20,000 these days. For us to actually demo it is probably $3,000 right now.
Okay. So it's cheaper for you just to go ahead and demo the property, haul it out there than it is to move it to a different park and that's why you said when give it away, it's because it makes sense for you to give it away or to sell it for a couple of $1,000 instead of moving it for 20 or demoing it for $3,000.
Right. Yep.
All right. Yeah. That's an interesting piece of the business that I would have never even have thought of. I would have thought that acquiring a park that had mobile homes that you're renting out would be a plus, but I can definitely see how that could be a negative. And when you're acquiring a property, like you said, that's got 56 homes on it, you really have to look at the condition or the quality of those homes and negotiate that into the purchase price accordingly.
Yeah. And your property insurance and your liability and the hot water, the refrigerator goes out. Like that's your responsibility. We work hard, but we actually don't work that hard on owning mobile homes.
But yeah, I get it. It's a different business model. It's like being a commercial real estate investor and you're going for triple net properties because you don't want to deal with the day-to-day maintenance of the individual units.
Yeah, I remember one park we actually had, what were they? They were actually cooking, and then the kitchen caught on fire, and then it caught the next home over, their house on fire as well. We actually own them. So just imagine the insurance and the cost and it was not pretty.
Yeah, you're not looking to be a landlord in that sense.
No,
yeah, just a different added responsibility. How about tiny homes? Have you ever ventured into the tiny home market? I know they're popping up here in Florida.
They actually are. They're RVs actually. They have financing. They look, I guess the financing and the banks look at them as RVs. So no, I haven't looked.
Okay, interesting. Well, I guess what I meant specifically in your scenario is buying a park that's specific to tiny homes, but you just answered the question. You said that's not really what you're doing. Again, not your business model.
No. If you do that with tiny homes or RVs, it's basically running a hotel.
Got it. Hey, and then before we wrap up, I also want to talk a little bit about Sonos Capital. I know that you guys are actively acquiring property. If clients are looking at investing in mobile home communities, what's the best way for them to reach out to you to get more information on some of the offerings that you have or some of the properties that you have coming up?
Yeah, just go to sonoscapital.com or reach out to me via email, Walter@Sonos, SONOS capital.com. Actually, just even give me a call, 480-674-2035. So we're really responsive. We love educating people in this space. We believe it's a fantastic space compared to other real estate avenues. So yeah, feel free to reach out to us.
Hey, thanks for being on the podcast today. And I look forward to talking to you real soon.
Likewise. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you'd like to get connected with today's guest, log on to realestateexplainer.com and click the Get Connected button on the homepage.